وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Common experience in life is that anytime a person wants to enter a place of importance, people are checked. For example, if you go into a federal building, they will make sure that a person is not carrying anything dangerous. They will make you go through metal detectors. If you enter into an airport, the checking is more stricter, so much so that sometimes when you are coming back to your own country, a country that you were born in, a country you are raised in, they will make sure that you are the person that you are claiming to be, and they will make you go through a lot of checking and screening. And sometimes it's a scary thing to go through, if especially if you're called into what is called a secondary screening. People have this haybat, this khawf, this shock factor that I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm not sure what kind of questions they will ask me. So people will, feel they get into this flight and fight response, amygdala response of I don't know what's going to happen. Right? So they are on the edge. It's a very normal reaction. Right? And I've seen people, and I've heard from people who have gone through this experience that, before we landed, we were just so worried of what's going to happen to me, and, if they'll call us into this secondary screening, or will they just let us go through, right? Gala khushk ho gaya, right? And so, the process itself, if we think about this, it's a daunting process. It's a scary thing. The thought about this process starts even before the process itself starts. Right? You're thinking about it. Let's say if you're coming from, the East, you start thinking about it as soon as you enter like Canadian airspace, right? It's not even US yet. And you're thinking, what am I going to say? What are they going to do? Right? It's a deep. And so the Quran, the Mushan, brings our attention to a process of questioning that may happen. Right? We all know that the day of reckoning is upon us. We all know that our deeds will be weighed, but Allah Ta'ala is also the Malik of that day. He is the master of that day. He may make a person go through secondary screening, or he may not. And so that khawf and haybat of that day, of that process, should really start today. It should start, and we should feel and we should fear what will happen if we get stopped. Right? Just like what will happen if a traffic cop stops me, or what will happen if the immigration person stops me, or what will happen if Falan and Falan person stops me. I mean, these are human beings we're talking about. But if they can cause so much panic within a person, right? How much fear should we have when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And so one of the ayahs that was read today, وَكَفِيهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ لَمَسْئُولُونَ. SubhanAllah, this is really what is being talked about, that stop, that we are going to question you. إِنَّهُمْ لَمَسْئُولُونَ. Really, we have to ask you questions, and imagine if that happens to us on that day. Aisa banda fir nahi bachta. It's very difficult. Because in dunya, people will ask you questions when they may not know enough about you, right? So they will try to get information out of you. But that day, everything is known. Everything about us, our lahir, our batin, our own a'dha and organs, they are screaming, this is what this person did. This is what this person did. And you're like, I did it for your pleasure. It's like today. Sab kuch bahir. وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. Even things that are those dark secrets. Nobody knows. Even that is مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. حُصِّلَ. It's taken out. It's like a tray. Let's say Maharaj puts all these dry fruit, all the dry fruit that we're carrying inside. And so we have to be concerned. But I would say, not only concerned, we have to be afraid of that. We have to be afraid. Because in the dunya, you have, okay, well, if you get stopped, what's the worst you can happen, right? You invoke your fifth and you can stay quiet, and right, you have a lawyer, then, okay, you go into the jail, but what's the worst, right? There, if you are stopped, it's just وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةً, you are going into hell for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. So that should give us a pause, just a thought that, what if I'm asked? What if this inquisition happens to me? Right? And so the second ayah that, we were talking about, what that was recited today was also have to do with khawf and khashiyat. Actually, it is mentioned that amongst the ibad, the ulama are the ones with the khashiyat. So if you think about this from this perspective, a prerequisite of being an alim of Allah Ta'ala is that they have this batini halat of khawf and khashiyat. It's a batini halat, right? It's a state of being. As I said, when you have khawf and khashiyat, and I've seen this, people will turn pale. They will start to sweat, right? There's a physical reaction to that state of being. It is said about Hasan Basri rahmatullah ta'ala, one of the greatest tabi'een. It is said about him that he would be walking in such a state of fear and khashiyat that people would think that he has just left the cemetery after burying his own father. ऐसे उनके ऊपर गम, khashiyat, khawf. That would be his state. So you could tell by his physical appearance that there's something going on, but nobody can tell that about us. Where's the khawf? Where's the khashiyat? Right? And that is, people who are engaged in gaining ilm from the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a prerequisite. That hal has to be there. It should increase you in that hal of khawf and khashiyat. And again, it's not an intellectual khawf. Of course, Mashaykh have written, and it's about different levels of khawf and khashiyat. Of the awamun nas is the khashiyat and khawf of what? Of punishment. Danda padega. But the higher level and the higher level and the highest level is just the khawf and khashiyat of losing that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do we worry about that? Okay, what if that ta'alluq of Allah ta'ala is taken away from me? What are we left with? What are we left with afterwards? We're not animals. But as long as I'm getting my rizq, and as long as, I have my house and I'm sleeping and I have my job and everything, it doesn't matter. That's not what we are here for. That is not what we are here for. And so that ta'alluq is so nazuk. Things affect it. And so, if we lose it, there's nothing else left in our life. There's nothing else left in our life. बेकार जिंदगी हो जाएगी. So the khawf and khashiyat of losing that. And so, all the tullab that are present here, the talib ilms, it's important that, we inculcate within ourselves that sense of presence and the ahwal that are necessary. Otherwise, we also know from hadith, Sahih hadith, that one of the first people, even before the hisab is started, the people who will be questioned are ulama. Not ulama who were just, who became ulama and didn't do anything. No, these are ulama who did a lot, established masajid, madaris, did khidmat of the deen, and, very comfortable and confident. What have you brought for us? Oh, yallah, I did this and this and this. You did all of that, so, because you were coveting fame and you were coveting recognition and you wanted other ma siwa, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so people praised you. They did your madha, they did your sataish, they did all of that. So today we have nothing for you, meaning they were lacking, if we want to generalize this, they were lacking in the ahwal of their qalb. They did not have the right ahwal. That includes ikhlas and ihsan, and it includes khawf and khashiyat, it includes all of those things, shukr and sabr and rida and tafweez, and these are all ahwal. They were lacking in it. They had all the knowledge in the world as we understand it. Teaching and being taught and doing all of that. But they were lacking in something very, very necessary. That defines an alim to begin with. A person who increases. And this is what Imam Ghazali rahmatullah also mentions. That alim is not a person who just memorizes all these kutub. Right? Rate maar lena. Cramming all these kutub. No, he's saying the alim is who understands the consequences of sins and stays away from them. Meaning that ilm has created within his sha'ur and consciousness concern, fikr, khawf, khashiyat. I'm going to stay away from this. Right? There are doctors here. A very good understanding of what cholesterol will do for you and, what all of this. And they stay away from those things. Or hopefully they don't. They do. And despite knowledge, if you don't stay away from it, this is a definition of people who do ibadah, who have made their own hawa, their ma'bud. That they have been misguided despite their knowledge. That's even a worse state to be in. So ilm is supposed to make you more cautious. If there's an electrical engineer, I don't know too much about electricity, but I've seen people who are like electricians, or they'll just come in and they'll touch all the wires and whatnot, because they know which ones are live and which are not. But they will stay away from them. Like, don't touch it. They know, okay, bijli maaf nahi karti. You touch it and that's it, you're gone. So it creates within them, a healthy respect or fear of what not to touch. And so an alim will know this. And it creates within them, khashiyat. I'm going to stay away from certain amal, because I know the consequences of these amal. And so we take this month of Ramadan as an opportunity to do what? To see if we have a healthy dose of khawf and khashiyat within us. Meaning, are we stopping ourselves? Are we able to stop ourselves from itham and dham, whether they're wadharu zahir al-ithmi wa batina, of the zahir and batin, we are able to stay away from these things that will darken our souls, and they really do. They really do. I mean, these sins, they have such a bad effect. It destroys you from within. It kills you from the inside. You literally die from inside. I mean, we walk around, but we're not alive inside anymore. The heart beats, but the spiritual heart is dead. So inshallah ta'ala, let's take this opportunity of Ramadan to do our own proper muhasibah, to be in a state of muraqabah, to really, jumpstart ourselves. Sometimes the battery dies and you need that. Our Mustang, the battery dies all the time. It's a dead car. So we always have to just go in and shock it. So we need to shock ourselves a little bit into being being alive again. Inshallah, that these nights are special, and a couple of days, inshallah, the last ashra will start and the nights become more special. So taking every moment as a special moment. As I said, as we said in the beginning, every moment is enough to realize the wilayah of Allah Ta'ala. But, you have to be very intentional in it. You have to want it. You have to be serious in your tawbah. Allah के साथ धोखा नहीं चल सकता. Allah के साथ धोखा नहीं चल सकता. You cannot deceive Allah Ta'ala. So may Allah Ta'ala keep us on guidance. May Allah Ta'ala bless each and every one of us. Inshallah Ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbul Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.